Hi, this is Bits and Pieces, the official podcast of Component Supply. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Mark.
And today we are going to be talking about being more than an online store. So that's a phrase that we've been using a lot lately. We have a lot of customers that only know us as the kind of the platform side, the online store side of buying components from us online, and that's great. So we're gonna have two segments. One is this is more than an online store, but to tell you that we're more than that, we have to actually talk about what the online store is, and we want to help you navigate it well. You know, it's a work in progress. We're continually improving it, so we're looking for feedback, but we kind of want to show you kind of high level how it works, and some of the nuances behind our part numbers and things like that. And then we'll do a second one that's kind of the more than the online store part, actually, which is the capabilities, the fabrication side of our business, which is really, you know, where we want the website to drive you. We want you to have quick access, easy access to components from wherever you need them from. Hopefully Component Supply has a lot of them. But we don't want that to be the stopping place. We want you to continue to navigate and to explore what else Component Supply can do to make your processes easier so you can keep using the same supplier all the way through. So whether you're buying one piece online or then you need it fabricated in some way, we're there every step of the way. We're ISO certified, all the things that you need to kind of stay in the same house for as long as you can, and take some of that burden off yourself so you can focus on doing what you do well, which is making amazing devices. So I want to first start with, we had a website redesign. We have additional functionalities that we're using. So we kind of want to talk at a high level of some of the key places to search and what to be looking for on the website. But I want to start talking about part numbers, because unlike, I don't know, most other suppliers, I would think, most other manufacturers, our part numbers are intelligent. They mean something. They're not perfect, but they're very close. They're very close. So some of this is like historical. So just to give you a quick example, you have hypodermic tubing. We'll talk about like our kind of main categories, which are hypodermic tubing and like stainless steel wires. So we have two alloys particularly of each of those. So we have like a 304 and a 316. So for hypodermic tubing, the hypodermic tubing part numbers start with HTX. HTX is the 304. Right. HTXX is the 316. GWX is the wire version of that. That's 304. And GWXX, so two X's, would be 316. So tell us a little bit about like kind of the history of these smart part numbers, why you've chosen to do this versus like something more random, just some history there.
Yeah, manufacturers and distributors, you make a decision whether or not you're going to use kind of like randomly generated part numbers, which if you're going to make tons and tons of SKUs and different parts, there's some benefits to just creating some sort of a random structure versus an intelligent structure, because all of a sudden if you add something in the middle, now it's nothing lines up right. We didn't, you know, because our products don't really change that much. I mean, hypodermic tubing, those gauges have been around a long time. Right. Wire, you know, nobody's going to come out and one day change what 30 thousandths is. Yeah. So that those you can be pretty safe to create something intelligent. When I call it intelligent, you know, it has some meaning behind it that you can you know, decipher. Yeah. We just decided, you know, before I was around at Small Parts, you know, that an intelligent part number system, something that had meaning to it, was more valuable than just random numbers. Yeah. And there were problems along the way with that. So with hypodermic tubing, for one, when a company first starts out, like, you know, Small Parts in the 60s, and they say, oh, this is a great idea. You've got HTX, hypodermic tubing X 304, fantastic, you know, 6 gauge. That's wonderful. So HTX-06 and then whatever length or whatever. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we should add a different wall thickness. Well, now what do? Now you got to change your whole structure again. And so anytime, you know, this is why when we add a part number, I'm kind of like, we have to think through every possible option that we may do in the future. This is not, we can't just design a part number system about, you know, around what we want to add now. Right. We have to think, what happens if we want to add something a different material, a different length, whatever that is later.
Yeah.
So we chose that for our own sake because we talk in part numbers.
We do, like every day.
Yes.
We don't say hypodermic tubing, we say HTX.
Right. And so we have to be careful because we've, in essence, created our own jargon. And it's not, jargon is what people use in industries to, I think, to try and confuse people outside the industry. But it is make it easier for us. We're not trying to confuse anybody, but for us, it's easier to talk about GWX or
well, and I think the
HTX.
purchasing people, like the purchasing agents in these other organizations, so like we're working with an engineer through a drawing or something, and then they're going to send information. I think the purchasing agent likes the intelligent part number. Like it makes sense to them. They start to use that lingo. They're like, we're going to buy more of that HTX. We're going to buy more of that. I love hearing that because that is the component supply part number.
Yes.
And I love seeing like HTX or, equivalent or whatever.
Right.
We know what they want. It doesn't mean that we're not going to clarify. We love the full description of the spec. I think that's so important. But we know what you're talking about when you talk in component supply part number. So if you're familiar, the more familiar you can be with them, especially the prefixes, the HTX, the GWX, those first parts, I think those are important. There are times I think when it doesn't make sense. We are going to so you'll see we'll have a part number prefix kind of guide where you can cross-reference what the materials are. We're going to have that on a blog post. You'll see examples of searching for those kinds of things on a website tour that we're going to do at the end of this podcast, and we'll put the minute that it starts in the description. There are times that we deviate from the structure. That's just going to happen sometimes. I think an example would be it's something with the stainless steel where it's like, what is it?
That was an accident. It's one of the fittings. It's a 316 fitting, but it only has one X on it.
Yeah. Like an LXF or something like that.
Something along those lines. We did it really just to see if our customers were awake and paying attention. It wasn't.
So you can see if you can figure out some of the logic behind the part numbers. If you have questions, we can explain it. But I do think it's good if you're a regular purchaser of component supply product, whether you are using just the standard supply off the shelf parts or you're using it like listing it on your drawing for a custom part. I think it's good to be familiar with those prefixes if you're working with us. But of course, you don't have to use them. The description will be enough for us.
There were some quality issues too, just from a quick reference. If you get a material cert and it says 316, if we get a material cert and it says the material is 316, but we ordered GWX, that's a flag very quickly that something is wrong. We either got the wrong thing or we've mixed up something along those lines. So there were some quality reasons behind that, even long before we were worried about ISO or anything like that. We just were making sure we got the right thing in the right spot.
Yeah. So that's one of the resources that you have is being able to search for a part number fix really quickly. If you're looking for hypodermic tubing, you can search HTX. It'll pop up a few parts, but then you can view all products and filter from there. So that's a great tool, like a good starting spot if you are always ordering GWX, if you're always ordering HTX, so wire or tubing, those are quick resources. But that's for everything that we have as a intelligent part number. So see if you can figure out the logic in all of your spare time. I know that you have. Just kidding. So other than searching for prefixes on the website, you have your standard like products categories, and we just list kind of the main categories, and then you can deep dive further into it. We have housed our custom fab site. For those of you who've been with us for a while, it used to be just a separate site. It's now embedded onto the website. It's very easy to navigate, so you can see some of these capabilities that we do. I love that it has an idea gallery. It's just like random pictures of stuff that we make or that we've used for photography or something, just to kind of get the ideas flowing. I had a customer recently wanting to navigate our site because they said that's where I get my that's your site helps me get the creative juices flowing, and that just made me so happy because as it should get the creative juices flowing. You can go to the component supply website, not know exactly what you're looking for, and see the yeses and the nos. Like I don't need that, but I need something similar. I need this. So we try to help that.
You talk about more than an online store. And can I get the two catalogs here?
Yeah.
Originally, we talked about when we first looked at creating the component supply website, the point was based off of catalogs that small parts had printed.
Oh yeah.
And this is a catalog from 1998. This is the catalog from 2005. And if you go through them, they're very, very similar in terms of their structure, because there is a lot. This was a terrible catalog. Every marketing person on the planet would look at this catalog and completely tear it to pieces in terms of like the real estate that's given to actual part numbers versus the amount of information that's just, there's half a page and there's a part number.
That's like why universities used it as a textbook, right?
That's right. And so this was always a resource for that purpose. It was supposed to give, engineers and product designers enough information to make really good decisions.
Yeah.
And our website, what we wanted was for it to do the same thing.
Yeah.
We don't print catalogs anymore. We have a website, but if you go to our website, there's a tremendous amount of information. You spent 2 years putting together the information with different vendors on all of those products in various ways, presenting it from application standpoint to market standpoint for that purpose, to be a resource to get creative juices flowing.
Yeah, and it's been such a great, as our team has grown, it's been so great to get feedback from Stephanie and other sales and customer service representatives, Courtney, of oh, I had this conversation with this customer, it'd be really useful if we had this, and just being able to pull that together. So that's now pulled all together under a resource center on there. So we have some of you just wanted PDF of all the specs for hypodermic tubing, or all the specs for metal materials, or all the specs for PTFE. So we've been building out some of those just really simple PDF pages, because sometimes you just want to see it at a glance. We try to make the product category pages on the website have the chart, that it flows really well, but we can't always fit all the information there and just make it show really nicely on the website. So we try to put the most pertinent stuff. Again, if you are man, it'd be really nice if your charts had these, we try to take that into consideration. And if we can't put it into the visual chart because it doesn't make sense or there's not enough room, then we'll pull that into a resource for you that you can have really handy. So I love that. We also, just talking about more than a resource, we have from the component supply website, you have the custom fabrication and you have this rapid request quote form. And so right now that gives you this is the most generic quote form that we have. It gives you really all the options. So when you first click start, you're picking really high level material. So tubing, plastic, rubber, or tubing, metal, or wire. So just way up there. And then it'll start giving you some specs to pick from. You can always skip ahead and just put a drawing, that's fine, or of course you can email a drawing. But sometimes if you don't know what all component supply can do from the more than an online store perspective, the quote form, that basic quote form, is just a great place to start. And we'll continue to build out more resources for you there. But just lots of ways to navigate this. But at kind of the basic, we are an online store. We've been an online store since our inception in 2009.
We were, prior to that, at Small Parts, the online stores aren't new. You could buy lots of things, obviously, even in industry, right? You had MSC, McMaster-Carr, you had companies, right? But for the products that we had, hypodermic tubing in small quantities, sold in lengths, shrink tubing. Small Parts was the first company ever to offer that.
Yeah.
No one had ever offered that before. And you've got other companies now that have websites you can buy those things from.
Yeah.
But we were the first ones to create an online presence and the ability to order that online.
Yeah.
And we weren't trying to move away from our catalog. It's just that that was the direction
the world was moving.
Was kind of moving. And so when component supply started in 2009, clearly it had just moved to a point where most of that was done online. However, that is the primary sales vehicle, but it's also the primary way you get across all the information.
Yeah.
And so the website became, the purpose of the website wasn't really just sales anymore. It really was to be the resource, or in this case, quality components and tools, a book of engineering findings, a website of engineering findings.
Yeah. When you do finally select your product category and even kind of those subcategories, you're in the hypodermic world, but you want to pay special attention to like 304 regular wall or whatever. Once you get on those category pages, if you scroll all the way beneath the chart, you will find additional information. You can look at markets and applications, custom fabrication, contract manufacturing, so some of the custom stuff we do, the quality information that's available to you, like what certs are offered, things like that, and then like related product pages, all the product pages in that category, blog posts, etc. So we're always adding to that, but that's now, it used to be kind of at the top. Now it's on the bottom because really when people come to the website, a lot of times they are ready to buy, but those resources are still there for you. So we just want, you scroll down all the way to the bottom of the charts and all that information is still there for you. So if you are needing more information, and of course, like we love to talk to people, so you can always call or email or chat with us and, we can get you that same information and send you the links and things that you need. And that's kind of the basic level. Like, yes, online store. We love that. We want that to be a great starting spot for you. We think that should be true anytime. Like, websites, companies are doing a great job building out their websites, giving you the information you need for a quick resource. So yes, use that. That's great. But then let's let that be the starting point of a conversation to get what you actually need, because no one needs a 60-inch piece of hypodermic tubing. No one needs a 72-inch piece of wire. You need something done to it. So in our next podcast episode, we're going to talk, maybe not our next one, we'll have one in between, but the next More Than an Online Store part 2, we'll talk more about what those capabilities are, what that looks like, how you can get in touch with us about those things, and make sure, this is a new year, new podcast episode. This is January 2026. So it's like a fresh start. So we want to make sure you have all the tools that you need right up front to get the job done. So is there anything else about the website? I mean, Mark, just to your credit, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you sat in a Starbucks, like before component supply was really like completely, I think, conceptualized, and you were building out coding pages. And for us to work, for me to come to work at Component Supply, I had to build up that coding knowledge because we were doing everything manually. We were manually coding our charts, manually doing everything. And of course, now we've grown out of that for scalability. Oh, yeah. We've got, great developing support, but we still are really involved in the day-to-day of our website. It's like for you, I think it's a project that you hold dear, and like you trusted, less than a handful of people with it. But it's always going to be an important part of component supply. Everything that we have will support that. But for us, that's like your first step. That's your first step to your next device. That's your first step to components. It's so important to us. So we want to make it work for you.
Right. No, it's going back to, again, my background in small parts. Our catalog was an enormous focus for us.
Yeah.
Because it was what people relied on for information. Yeah. So a huge part of my job was going through this and figuring ways to make it better and more useful. And we were not interested in selling.
Yeah.
The point was, how did I make it have enough information? Was it beneficial? We wanted people just craving for the next small parts catalog.
Yeah.
Because it had more information. It had, and people like the covers, things like that. So when we started Component Supply and we started, I started looking at, okay, what's the purpose of the website? It was not to take an order.
Yeah.
We were going to do that to make it easy, just like we had a customer service group at Components or in small parts with an 800 number, and we had a fax machine too. That was helpful to people.
What is that?
I know. But that wasn't the point of the website. The purpose of the website was not to take an order. It would do that for you, but that was not ever supposed to be the purpose of our website. At Component Supply today, that's not the purpose of our website.
Right.
It will do that.
Yeah.
But our whole idea of being a resource to our industry has nothing to do with making it easy to click a button and place an order.
Yeah.
This is why we've put so much information on our, it will read like a textbook on our website. It's why when you call, there's not a, thank you for calling Component Supply. Our menu options have changed.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to ring and Stacy or Steph, somebody's going to answer the phone.
Yeah.
It's why when you open the little chat on the website, when you ask a question, an actual person, it will be Stacy or Stephanie or Courtney. It's not going to be a bot that gives you a list of options and asks for your email address.
Unless you do it at 2 a.m. or on the weekend, because we're humans, we gotta go sleep.
We have to sleep sometime. But the purpose was not to place an order.
Yeah.
The purpose of the website was to be a resource. Placing an order online and making that easy is part of that that strategy and that philosophy of making the website a resource. But when we talk about more than an online store is just, you can go buy something from an online store. Yeah. There is much more to just even the componentsupplycompany.com. Yeah. Than just an online store. Oh, yeah. Forget component supply, as our whole company is more than an online store. Yeah. Just the website itself is more than philosophically is more than an online store. And growing,
like we're constantly considering what additions need to be made. So, and we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about more than an online store in the part 2, give you more information about customer service, give you more information about capabilities, all the things that are available to you as a buyer of component supply. But for now, we're going to end with that. After this segment, after we do our sign off, there will be an additional brief online store tour for those of you who are not familiar or perhaps maybe hesitant due to recent redesigns and other considerations. I understand that can be very frustrating if you're used to having something one way and then it changes. So we want to walk through that with you. If you have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to reach out. Of course, we have a love-hate relationship with negative feedback, but we'd rather hear it and improve it and make your experience better than to just think that we're doing everything perfectly all the time. I mean, we know we're not, but we're always working to improve. But I hope these things help you, and now go change the world. Okay, so we're going to give you a brief overview of our component supply website, just high-level view of everything that you can find here. So starting at the top, you've got our phone number, where you can rest assured that you will be responded to by an actual human, which is exciting. No menus, just a person, if you call during normal business hours. And you have our email, just a standard email address, parts@componentsupplycompany.com. We have, I believe, the fastest response rate in the world for customer service. Again, if you email during a normal time. Then you have our social stuff. That's Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. These are great resources for you if you're looking for company news, where we're going to be exhibiting at trade shows, new products, things like that. And then, of course, YouTube hosts our podcast. Then you have the login and the registration links here. You do have to have a Component Supply login to purchase from Component Supply. So go ahead and set that up, and then you are ready to buy. Okay. We're going to move to search. Love a good search. We recommend searching by either category, like hypodermic tubing, where you can see kind of an introduction to some of the products. You can view all products. You can look at the categories that are listed, view all categories, and then also the articles that mention that. So you can search by a category, you can search by a part number, and you'll get some results. So that's just a great way to start. If you're searching by part number, it's only going to bring up the products. If you're searching by category, it'll give you kind of all the other resources that can be used. Okay, so that's kind of high-level search. Products, you've got all of our main product categories. And again, we're component supply. We're not adding huge categories on the regular. We might add a subcategory or like some parts. But this is really the bread and butter of our website: hypodermic tubing, wire, heat shrink, PTFE, and so on, all the way down through barbed fittings and fasteners there at the end. So once you get there, you have your subcategories. With hypodermic tubing, we have divisions based on wall thicknesses and cut lengths for 304, and then some bends and a kit. For wire and mandrels, we have all the different materials that are used, the assemblies that we do, where we're kind of combining, stainless steel tube and wire, PTFE tube and a wire, and the wire lab kits, and kind of so on and so forth. You can check that out for yourself, just so you know that these are like the subcategories. You can narrow your search a little bit more for those different things. Okay, then we're going to move to the next line, which is custom fabrication. For those of you who've been with us for a while, you know that we had kind of a separate custom fab site. So we've brought that in-house just to make it easier. So once you're there, you can look at quality materials. So these are all the materials that we have in-house that you can fabricate, but we can fabricate for you with a quick turn. And because we have thousands and millions of feet and components in stock, we have quick access to the resources we need to make these custom components. So you can look at the materials there. Then you can get an overview of the precision capabilities. You can look at an idea gallery. These are just parts that we've made for our own use for marketing or just as samples or things like that. So you can kind of get a high-level view. We've had customers say, oh, we love coming to the Component Supply website. It gets the creative juices flowing. So we wanted to add that as a resource. You have our rapid request quote form. This is really intended for those of you who maybe don't know all that's offered for each material. So you can go there, you can pick a high level category and then the subcategories, links, all the things, and then contact us. Then we have the blog. I love the blog. For those of you that are readers, this is a great resource for you to just get more information on the components that we have. We launch products here. We talk about REAP, our Research, Engagement, and Awareness program, where we feature a different health concern and offer discounts to researchers who are working in that field. And then mesh properties, all sorts of spec charts. Everything is kind of housed here. It's, again, a great resource. We have an About Us page, just like everybody else does. If you want to learn more about component supply, a little bit about our history, a high-level view of all the things we do and are, that's a good place to start. And then finally, the Resource Center. This is where we kind of condense some of our blog content into really accessible PDF files, like our size charts for every product category that we have pretty much. And, if we're using a different system, we have metric here. If you're looking for tensile strength, if you're one of our volume wire customers and you need that feet per pound conversion chart, we've got that. So all these resources we're constantly adding to. You can view your cart on the left side anytime and then go to the cart or check out. And then finally, here at the bottom, we have where you can talk. I recently was talking to Courtney. Let's see if she's still available.